Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story. Today we have Sergei who is going to share his story with you guys. So, Sergei, can you start off just by introducing yourself to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Sergei. Originally, I'm from Russia, but I moved to Poland a little bit less than a year ago.
Hmm.
So I've been living in Krakow ever since. Uh,
Excellent. And can you tell people a little bit about your IELTS journey?
yeah, sure. Uh, uh, well, I started on my IELTS journey in January 2018. At that time, I decided that I wanted to immigrate somewhere. At first, I thought I'd go to Australia, and then along the line, I decided to change my destination to Canada
Hmm.
because it's a little bit easier to get to Canada,
Hmm.
but still, not a lot easier than Australia. Uh, well, and yeah, and took the I made the first attempt at IELTS about 6 months after that, so in June 2018. And I got good scores, but the scores weren't good enough to apply anywhere. Particularly, I struggled with writing and listening.
Hmm.
The other scores were fine, reading and speaking. And so I didn't really know how to improve my writing. I, and I didn't have a good idea about how to improve my listening also. I mean, yeah, I had some ideas, but not I didn't have like a good plan.
Hmm. And
Yeah,
what scores were you getting in June? What did you get?
yeah, I got 6.5 for writing and 7.5 for listening.
Hmm.
So I was half a band behind my target.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you're just so close, but
But I didn't know how to improve it really. Yeah. So I actually, by the time I took IELTS, I'd already been studying for like 6 months quite intensively. I'd been taking speaking classes, and then I'd wrote some essays, maybe about a dozen essays and maybe a dozen letters I'd wrote by that time. I really didn't really know how to improve it. So I had a general idea, like studying grammar or I don't know, just writing.
Hmm.
I didn't really, and I didn't know how to write the essays actually.
Hmm.
So it always was a creative process. I had
Hmm.
to come up with structure on the fly. And so it was very frustrating because I could write a good essay, but it took take me like 5 hours and maybe 2 days. Yeah, but it's not exactly something that you do on a real test.
Yeah.
So I was quite frustrated.
Hmm. So, apart from we can talk about the timing issue in this video because that's very important. I think that people understand that it's something a lot of people struggle with. But apart from the timing, what were the main reasons why you were getting 6.5?
Mm. Uh, I think that's looking back, I think that's because I had no idea about formal informal letters at the
Hmm.
time. So I just wrote kind of a mix of formal and informal letters.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I didn't know that you should actually change it if you have a friend, if you have the word friend or not. And then yeah, and I didn't know how to structure essays well. So it always was a creative process and didn't work
Hmm.
all the time. It took a lot of time.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I made a lot of, not probably not a lot of mistakes, but still I made mistakes and I didn't really know how to improve them, I think.
And you talked about a creative process versus a structured essay. What was the main difference between when you were getting 6.5 and when you were getting the score that you did get? You got a 7.5 in writing at the end?
No, I got 7. Yeah.
Seven, seven.
Yeah. Well, I think the main difference is that by the time I've got the second, by the time I've got the proper mark, uh, I've known how to actually um, answer essays in a fixed amount of time, in
Hmm.
45 minutes, or even or 40 minutes. I think I usually do it in 35 minutes.
Hmm.
and I also had a lot of bits of language to put it, such as how to start a paragraph, or uh, how to write introductions,
Mm-hmm.
because introductions and conclusions, they use very they use kind of fixed structure. You can just memorize fixed structure and then substitute ideas. So
Mm-hmm.
you need a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of the knowledge of the language, but most of it, I mean, it's written out. And so this different bits of language um, and generally having a good idea of structure, I think they sped up the process quite a bit. And then all of the planning and ideas and where to put ideas in each body paragraph or introduction, what to write exactly, it also sped up the process quite a bit. So with practice, I think I got it exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also addressed some grammar mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's how it improved.
Good. And what do you think was the main difference between doing it in 5 hours and doing it in 35 minutes? Well, how do you think that? What advice would you give to someone who is really struggling to finish it on time?
Well, I'd say that at first this person would have to actually memorize the structure of each essay type, and how to do the planning, how to generate ideas, and all this sort of thing. And then they have to practice for a long time. No, I mean, it probably depends on the person, but I'd say that it still takes a considerable amount of work to actually get all of this done, and uh, and to be able to actually write it in a short amount of time. So at first you can um, learn everything from the course, but it still takes a couple of hours to write an essay. Well, in my experience, and then you have to practice writing essays, and then generating ideas would become easier. So it would take less time, and then just writing out these ideas, it would also become easier. And then you'd figure out ways to make arguments and refute arguments. So usually, especially if you're writing, for example, discussion essay, first you write something that you disagree with, and then you have to give a line disagreeing with this view. And to disagree, you have to actually figure out probably a pattern how to disagree quickly. So it would take 10 minutes to give a good reason. I think it also takes time. So just practicing.
Yeah, it does take time, because if you think about the number of things that are in our course, such as, analyzing the question, generating ideas, planning out your answer, using correct structure, paraphrasing, outlining main ideas, topic sentences, explanations, examples, conclusion, all of these separate things need to be learned. And when you first do the course, or do any course, you're not only writing the essay, but you're thinking very deeply about all of these new things that you're learning. So often people will do a course and they will end up getting worse, or they will get slower, because not only are they writing and thinking, they're thinking about all of these new things, and they're learning all of these new things at the same time. So it's about getting over that initial hump and really pushing forward with your practice, because a lot of people just give up. They're like, this course isn't working, or this book isn't working, or because they actually get worse for a little bit of time, because you're learning all of these new things. So as you said, you have to keep practicing, you have to keep putting in the work, and then you will get there. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, sure. That's been my experience, I think.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that on the course, even simple strategies such as like true, false, not given for reading. Often people will look at a strategy, do one question, get the question wrong, and say the strategy doesn't work. Like, no. It's like, you have to practice. You have to master the strategy or the technique or whatever it is. It could be for listening, reading, speaking. and then you start to see progress. And I think a lot of people are obviously want to get to Canada or Australia. They're impatient, and but until you have that patience and put in the work, then you're going to really struggle. So is there any other last minute advice that you would give to someone who is in a similar position to you?
Well, yeah, I'd say that this person would need to practice, but also not practicing not just on your own, but I think it's important to receive error corrections.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to look at your work and identify your errors.
Mm-hmm.
So is it articles or prepositions or tenses maybe?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have to go back to the grammar book and relearn this concept.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think just practicing and so on, if you keep making the same mistakes, it's not gonna improve a lot.
Yeah,
you're not going to improve your score considerably. But if you go back to the grammar and then fix these mistakes, I think that's what's going to make the difference.
Mm-hmm. For you, was it was articles? Was it that you had a problem with?
Yeah, it's articles, spelling. I had a lot of problems with spelling because I didn't write a lot, and so I think most of my spelling was just from reading things.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't spend a lot of time reading, actually. I spent most of my time listening. So it's also to put a dent in my spelling. Yeah, and so I had to actually practice writing a lot. And when you're practicing in Google Docs, for example, it's always autocorrect. And then I would get a word wrong. I would get it corrected, and then I would delete it and try to spell it out correctly now the second time from memory. I think it also helped. And I also, sorry.
I think the important point to make for anyone watching this is Sergei's problem was spelling and articles. The key for anyone watching this is to find out what your main problem is, what your common problem is. Because for you, it might not be articles. It could be punctuation, or it could be tenses, or it could be, subject verb agreement. For you, it might not be spelling. It could be that you have a problem in another area of vocabulary, like collocations, for example. So it's identifying that common or big problem that you have, and then attacking that and turning that into a weakness. And that really is the key to improving not just your IELTS performance, but any skill or anything you're trying to improve. Do you agree with that, Sergei?
Yeah, sure. I agree.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Sergei, and best of luck in Canada. What are you going to be doing in Canada?
Well, hopefully I'm going to be working as a computer programmer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if I need any help in the future, I'll let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you very much again, and best of luck in Canada.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.